Good to see everyone here, and especially in August. Apparently, most people in Europe are on vacation. I also was on vacation this August. I spent Saturday and Sunday vacationing. That was my August vacation in the United States. But I feel rested, and things are busier than ever in open source and busier than ever at the Linux Foundation. Every time I come to one of these events, we're announcing a variety of new projects and open source initiatives, and I always get asked, like, are you going to keep the name Linux Foundation? Because so many of the Linux Foundation's projects, whether it's the Cloud Native Computing Foundation or the OpenJS Foundation or OpenSSF or whatever, they're not actually Linux. They may be related to, but they're not Linux. And my response is always the same. Yes, I love the name Linux Foundation. Everybody loves Linux. We're keeping the name. But it's, all right, here we go. There must be some kernel developers in the room here. It's a crazy time in open source. You've all seen this study, I believe, and open source is just an amazing collective asset for society. When we first started at the Linux Foundation, one of the big goals that we set out was to create the greatest shared technology investment on Earth, right? To bring together this free asset so that people could use it to create wonderful technology. And I think that's really happening. Now, the $9 trillion isn't just Linux Foundation projects, that's the whole ecosystem. And we did have some news earlier this spring. The author of this study, Frank Nagel from Harvard University, now at MIT, is the Linux Foundation's first chief economist on staff. So I want to welcome Frank to the Linux Foundation. He's going to continue this work, and you're going to see that work manifest not only in subsequent research about the value and economics of open source so that you can explain to your management why open source is important from a dollars and cents point of view, but you also see it manifest in the tools that we use to estimate on an ongoing basis the value of open source projects in our LFX platforms, the value of individual contributions to open source projects. So you'll see some really exciting things coming out of Frank's work. It's been a busy spring at the Linux Foundation. Here in Europe, we launched the Neo-Nephos project. This is a project to connect interoperable clouds here in Europe. We also announced the Carbide stack. This is an encrypted data stack that we're working on with companies like Bosch, SAP, and many others here in Europe. So real good new activity here in Europe with open source projects that were created and backed by European developers and major European organization. We also launched some new projects and brought a new project on board. The Fair Package Manager, I think, is an interesting one worth mentioning. This is a sort of network of package managers for the WordPress ecosystem, so you don't have to depend on just one provider of WordPress plugins. I know there are probably a lot of people here who use WordPress. We launched that this spring. And then finally, we've been busy. We brought the Open Infra Foundation on board, the Linux Foundation. I believe Thierry is somewhere in here, the general manager, and Jonathan Bryce, their former executive director, now the head of a bunch of new projects at the Linux Foundation. Open Infra, the home to OpenStack, which is very widely used here in Europe for cloud services. So it's been super, super busy. But the thing I've been spending most of my time with this spring and this year and for the last couple of years is AI technology. How many people here are involved in AI companies or working on AI projects, using AI tools? All right. Using AI tools is sort of a trick question, I guess. But this year in AI is moving so fast, it feels like it's been 10 years, but this year was a big moment for open source in AI. And that moment really was in just January of this year. Again, it seems so long ago in terms of everything that's happened since then. when DeepSeek in China dropped their open source, open weight model and sort of showed the world that you can create an open model that's equally performant to some of the proprietary frontier models out there. And this was a huge disruption. NVIDIA's stock, dropped 17%. Oh my goodness, like, wow, this is going to disrupt the whole economy of open source. NVIDIA has very, very much recovered their stock price since then and has gone on to be one of the most valuable companies in the world. But if you recall, in February, Sam Altman, the head of OpenAI, sort of admitted begrudgingly that maybe OpenAI is on the wrong side of history when it comes to open source. Now, I think most of the people in this crowd could have told him that, but it took DeepSeek to really make the point that open is an incredible way to innovate faster and to reduce the cost of technology. And Sam, acknowledging that, just this month dropped their open source model. So we've kind of come full circle in terms of this drama around DeepSeek. And what really has happened is that open source is now sort of commoditizing and really has largely caught up on the frontier model space in terms of performance. And there have been an incredible number of open frontier models that have come out. Most of those models are from the United States and China, with the exception of Mistral here in Europe. But these are highly performant open models, very widely used, and continue to kind of reduce the cost of building AI applications because these open and freely available frontier models are there for anyone to use. And so one question I get asked all the time is, how did this happen? How did a little Chinese company come out of nowhere in January and sort of flip the script on building frontier AI models? And the answer is that it wasn't just a little company in China in isolation, that DeepSeek didn't just come out of nowhere, but that in China, where I've spent a lot of time for the last 20 years, they bet on open source a very, very long time ago. They have been investing in open source technology, whether it's using Linux to build applications or cloud services. But they've also really strategically adopted it at the government level with ongoing support and encouragement for their industry to adopt open source. And this has gone on for decades. And some people might ask, like, wow, is this some sort of maniacal plan that the Chinese have hatched up to sort of take over the world? And the answer to that is, they learned that largely from the US technology industry, which also bet on open source technology a very, very long time ago. I mean, there are some people in this room, some in the front row here, who are old enough to remember IBM's Linux ad, where they kicked off a $1 billion marketing campaign with a Super Bowl commercial in the United States featuring all these sort of famous athletes, Muhammad Ali and others, and ushering in an era of huge investment in open source technology, both to create valuable products and services, but to also unseat incumbent sort of proprietary dominant forces in the industry by using open source technology to disrupt those proprietary competitors. And we all know that history, and we know that it was very, very effective. And that's the most important thing to remember about the role of open source in artificial intelligence and why we should all keep leaning in to open source as a critical component for building AI models, but most importantly, for building AI applications. It seems like AI has become this dominant part of conversation, that it's just changing all of our lives on an ongoing basis every single day, but we're really in the first 5 minutes of a very long game when it comes to this technology. And to get the real value out of AI, you really need to be able to enable application developers to use it effectively, and I don't think we're quite there yet. It's still too expensive. Standards haven't coalesced around how to access these models effectively. Enterprise data isn't available to, really get the kind of productivity gains that we've been promised. But I do think the technology is basically there in the frontier model space, and open source will continue to lower the cost of all of these lower levels of the technology in order to enable application developers to build the things that we really want and need. And so I think that in 2025, what has happened is in the model world, open models have really proven to be the name of the game. And I don't think that's going to stop. I think it'll actually accelerate. In 2025, we're now shifting to that application layer and to the time of agentic AI. And this agentic era is where we're going to really start unlocking the real value of artificial intelligence, where we can essentially have tools and sort of agents that go out and do sequential tasks for us and can coordinate their activity to create, automation and real outcomes. And we see the open community pivoting with this. DeepSeek's latest drop is an agent release. And we're seeing standards emerge in this world as well. As frontier AI models commoditize, we're seeing the rise of standards like MCP, like A2A, that are standardized ways to access agent technology, to access back-end server resources, and use these frontier models in an effective way. We're really starting to see the emergence of the agentic stack, so to speak. And I think it's just going to be a repeat of what has been happening already in training of models and in the inference space, where open source, things like PyTorch, are used to train models, and in inference, things like VLLM are used to accelerate and scale reasoning. The same thing's happening in the agentic space, and you're going to see these things come together in the emergence of a unified set of standards and open source tools to enable it. The main point of all of this is that open source is a fundamental building block of AI. The open source community, once again, is enabling this innovation at the highest level and serving one of the most critical roles in making this technology accessible to everyone. And I think that's really going to continue. And I think that we can all agree, or at least I'll ask you, how many of you agree that the technology, if it doesn't change much at all in terms of the capability of some of these models, how many people here think that AI will still have a pretty big impact on all our lives? How many here? How many think it's not going to have any impact at all? All right, so wow, that's like there's usually always a naysayer. I agree. I think it's going to have a big impact. And so that's kind of the question I want to quickly talk about today and kick off a conversation with all of you, which is we know that AI technology is built on open source, but the other question I want to talk about is what will AI do to the open source community? How will AI impact all of us? And here's some questions. How many people here think there will be more developers in 5 years because of AI? How many think less? Okay. Will there be more code or less code? More code? Wow, okay. That's a pretty easy one. The big question I want to ask everyone is, will there still be a need for open source foundations in the age of AI in 5 years from now? I appreciate that. Really, thank you. Here's the scary thing. You see all these statistics lately about entry-level jobs in software development declining. Here's from a US statistical resource about the rapid decline as AI emerged in software developer job postings. Here's an article, I think this is from just a couple weeks ago, maybe about a week ago in the New York Times, about how new graduates are no longer finding coding jobs. And apparently this young woman sent out hundreds of resumes, and the only one she got a response from was for Chipotle, which is a fast food restaurant in the United States. And I don't think they were looking for her to code. You see kind of these terrifying headlines about coding jobs. Recent graduates finding a hard time getting a job, unemployment in IT rising. Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce in the United States, saying they're not going to hire more software engineers in 2025 because of AI. And it's kind of scary to think, maybe the next event we have, there's going to be a lot less people in this room because there will just be a lot less software developers and, of course, a lot less open source developers. Now, Amazon's CEO this week sort of said what every one of us is probably thinking who are in the software development world, which is this talk of no more software developers is one of the dumbest things that he has ever heard. And I think that's probably right. I mean, we're still going to need software developers. Not only that, in terms of more code, a lot of times more code is not good code. Is Daniel in the room today? There he is, Daniel back here, the maintainer of curl, libcurl. Very famous. You're going to hear more from Daniel later this week, but just being overwhelmed with AI-generated code. We also have seen studies that show that people think AI is making them more productive, but when they observe the results, there's actually less productivity in open source projects. This is one academic study. Stack Overflow did a survey recently, asked developers how many of you are using AI tools. Just like this audience, most people said, I'm using the tools. But most of them also said they don't quite trust the tools. They produce good-looking code, but the code doesn't always work. And then the University of Texas in Austin did a study and found that AI tools actually help individual productivity, especially for sort of abstracted programming language frameworks. It really does help people be more productive as developers, but it actually slowed down coordination. And so the question that I want to ask all of us is, what kind of policies should open source projects have when it comes to AI? I mean, I did go and created a presentation about at every sort of stage of software development in an open source community, what AI tools are out there that could increase productivity in testing and planning and all sorts of components, but it would have been too long of a presentation. I think the big thing I'd like everyone to think about is what is the future of AI if you look at all those tools from a policy perspective if you're working as an open source maintainer in a project. When should a human be in the loop? What kind of licensing? How do you document it? All of these things I think are important. And that's where I want to sort of leave you all with today before I introduce some exciting new news from the Linux Foundation, some new projects that we're bringing on board to our ever-growing ecosystem, is let's spend a little less time debating the question of what is open. I'm not saying don't spend time on that question. I think it is very important for this technology to be open and for open to mean something. The Linux Foundation has a model openness framework that we use to sort of describe what open source and AI really is. But what I would love to see the open source community spend more time on is how can we all, as a collective community, including foundations like the Linux Foundation, how can we all leverage and harness the power of artificial intelligence to make our communities stronger? Let's have more of that conversation, because I think that's the conversation that's really going to matter when it comes to, in 5 years, whether or not I'm sitting up here talking to an empty room or I'm sitting up here talking to a lot of hyper-productive open source developers who are creating an ever larger set of innovative, freely available software. So let's spend this week talking about that. If you see me around and I'm not on the phone or anything, come up and challenge me on this topic, and I would really appreciate that. So with that, I would like to thank you, and I would like to kick off some announcements we have. We got some fun things going on today. So today we are announcing a bunch of new projects at the Linux Foundation that are coming on board. The first one we're announcing is DocumentDB. So today we all know applications rely and generate enormous amounts of data, right? And traditional databases struggle to keep up with that, and that is why DocumentDB has come into existence. DocumentDB manages dynamic data natively without forcing into rigid tables. It just reduces engineering overhead and allows data to ever scale. This project is coming to the Linux Foundation from Microsoft, and I would like to introduce the DocumentDB lead, Kirill Gavryluk. And he is the Vice President of Azure Cosmos DB at Microsoft to talk about DocumentDB. Come on up, Kirill.
Well, hello. Document databases are critical for AI apps. Jim talked about AI. It's on everyone's mind today. Context, messages, prompts. AI apps are all about semi-structured document data. But we do not have an open standard for document databases like we have Postgres for relational databases. And Microsoft launched DocumentDB earlier this year to change that. DocumentDB is a document database, fully featured, open source. It is built on Postgres and integrates well with its broad ecosystem. It extends Postgres with a stronger JSON support and first-class BSON support, as well as document-style queries. DocumentDB is built to be fully compatible with popular open-source MongoDB drivers, so that developers familiar with MongoDB can easily use it for their existing apps or new apps. It is easy to deploy DocumentDB anywhere, on any cloud or on premises, using its Kubernetes operator. It takes less than a minute to get started, even shorter to contribute. And DocumentDB is designed with scale, performance, and reliability for mission-critical applications. At Microsoft, we use DocumentDB for our own Azure Cosmos DB vCore service. And we're excited to see what industry is starting to build with it. The project already garnered a significant, broad support and collaboration from the industry, from more than a dozen companies, including AWS, Google Cloud, Snowflake, Supabase, CockroachDB, Yugabyte, UbiCloud. We have a long list on the slide. These organizations understand the importance of developer freedom, the importance of having an open source standard in the stack. And today we're excited to announce DocumentDB joining Linux Foundation. It's an important step towards becoming an open standard. Under the governance of Linux Foundation, DocumentDB will benefit from vendor neutrality and a broader industry collaboration. This contribution continues Microsoft's commitment to open source, Linux Foundation, and Postgres. Microsoft is already one of the top contributors to Linux Foundation and Postgres, and we are not slowing down. And in another exciting news, Amazon Web Services is joining DocumentDB project as a maintainer and contributor to advance the project forward. Amazon is known for its strong expertise in databases, and at Microsoft, we're excited to expand our collaboration with Amazon from open source projects like Postgres to now DocumentDB. The DocumentDB mission is crystal clear: an open source, developer-friendly document database built on Postgres with full MongoDB compatibility. It was a proud moment for me to see a team at Microsoft work together with community towards this mission. And I'm excited to work with Amazon, Yugabyte, and every contributor believing in this mission under the governance and stewardship of Linux Foundation. Please join us at our booth. It's right between you and lunch. It's called DocumentDB, and I'm excited to share more and talk to you about it. Thank you. Over to you, Jim.
All right. Thank you. All right, that's an exciting project. Our next speaker is here to announce the State of Commercial Open Source 2025 report. I already talked about the $9 trillion in value, but this is about the amount of both private and public equity investment that happens in open source and some of the incredible outcomes that we've seen from investments in open source-based organizations. Here to talk and present the findings from the report is Matthew Laverne, partner at Serena and co-author of the report. Please welcome Matthew.
Hi, everyone. It's a very pervasive idea that open source and business are on opposite sides. In fact, you and I have heard it a lot. Open source is bad for business, and business is bad for open source. But what about those massive commercial successes and their vibrant communities? Well, they are often discarded as non-repeatable. There can only be one Red Hat. Others argue they have been made at the expense of the community behind it. Think about the license shifts. Well, at Serena and the Linux Foundation, we believe opposing business and open source is one of the biggest misconceptions in the history of software. But belief is not enough, right? So we've looked at data, 25 years of data on VC-backed commercial open source companies. And we've looked at the data with two main research questions in mind. First, is open source a good financial strategy for software businesses? And two, does VC funding positively impact community health? Today, we're releasing the State of Commercial Open Source, a landmark report that provides clarity on those two very highly debated questions. This report is the result of a unique partnership between three organizations: the Linux Foundation Research, the Commercial Open Source Startup Alliance, which is spinning out today of the Linux Foundation, and my organization, Serena, a European venture capital firm. So what's the data telling us? Open source is a proven superior business strategy. Commercial open source companies outperform financially their closed source equivalents. They have an easier journey when they're in their research for investors. They raise bigger rounds at higher valuation and with better graduation rate between one round to another. When it comes to exit, they deliver superior results to their investors. 7x larger at IPO and 14x larger at M&A. But what about community? Well, in fact, if vibrant and healthy community attracts investments, in return, investments strengthen community. The data shows that a good community, a healthy community, and company valuation are two correlated variables. And what we also observe is that right after funding, we observe community growth among those companies, especially in terms of dependent projects, downloads, and stars. But it's just the appetizer. If you want to know about the full analysis, please download the report. It's available today on the Linux Foundation website. And I encourage you to attend today's session at 5:20 to get the behind-the-scenes and complementary perspective on the report. If you want to participate in or receive future research, I encourage you to look at COSA, the Commercial Open Source Startup Alliance, which is available at cosa.io. And where commercial open source goes next? Well, as technology evolves, open source needs to adapt and transform. But history has shown that when paired with business, open source delivers superior results consistently. We have no doubt it will do so again in the future, and especially in emerging fields like AI. So the question is not if, but how, and that is for you to invent. Thank you very much. I'm Matt Laverne, and I wish you a wonderful summit.
Thank you. There have been a lot of folks in our community who have started open source companies and done pretty well. I know that some of those folks have done so well that they have been able to retire and have achieved multi-generational wealth from their work in open source through investments from venture capitalists and private equity investors. Remember how I talked about the age of AI agents? Well, we have an announcement today about a new project at the Linux Foundation, Agent Gateway. This is the first and only data plane built for AI agents. It works with major protocols, A2A, MCP, and has attracted contributions from Amazon, Cisco, Huawei, IBM, Microsoft, Red Hat, Shell, Dow, many others. Here to introduce the Agent Gateway project to the Linux Foundation is Ram Vanam. He is the principal architect and field CTO of Solo.io. Please welcome Ram.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Ram Vanam. I'm the field CTO of Solo.io, and today I'm super excited to share some information about a new project that just joined the Linux Foundation, Agent Gateway. So Agent Gateway is all about how we solve the big challenges that we face with the adoption of agents in the agentic era. It's about how agents, tools, and LLMs all interact with one another, and how we can scale them securely. So if we take a look at the agentic communication paths, we have agents, but these agents, they perform goals, they accomplish goals, but they don't operate in isolation. They obviously they interact, they reason with LLMs, often multiple LLMs. Some might be general purpose, others are maybe like domain-specific trained models. And for these agents to be more useful, they need information, they need context. So they pull this context in from your existing internal and external systems. These are your APIs, these are your databases, right? These are tools. And then agents, they work best when they're small, they're focused, then you give them only a small subset of tools so that their outcome is more predictable. So to accomplish higher order workflows, these agents interact with one another. They pass state, they pass tasks with one another, and then they chain their results. So to deal with all of this, like interoperability, we have protocols, like Jim said, right? So we have the MCP protocol for agents to interact with tools, essentially. This protocol is JSON RPC. These are long-lived connections that are bidirectional. Sometimes there's server-side events as well. And then for agent-to-agent, there's the A2A protocol, also JSON RPC, but the unique piece of this is that they're multi-turn, stateful passing session information or state information between agents to agents. And then for LLMs, there's multiple LLMs, each with their own provider APIs, but every API, every provider has its own features and quirks that you kind of have to take into account. So these protocols help with interoperability, but they don't solve the main enterprise concerns for these agents to be adopted widespread in the enterprise. For true enterprise adoption, this communication path is no different than any other communication path. You need governance, you need security, you need policy. You don't want your support agent to accidentally make a call to your payroll system. Or you might need to enforce data residency, where these agents operate and the data that they operate on. You need observability and guardrails. You need to be able to trace which tool, which agent called what set of tools, and what are the error rates, what are the latencies. You need to be able to apply rate limit policies on your tools, on your MCP servers, on your LLMs, et cetera. So you need that for cost control. And you need these agents and this entire infrastructure to run on your existing infrastructure where you have other applications as well, because this is just these agents are just part of your broader ecosystem. So In the past, even at Solo, the way we solve these problems in the past is with proxies. These proxies are at the ingress. These proxies could be at the sidecar or as a waypoint or as an egress. And the proxy that we're most familiar with was Envoy. So at first, we started to see if we can just add these protocol support directly to Envoy. But Envoy was really built for bursty HTTP traffic, right? Request comes in, you process the headers, you stream the body, connection closes, right? And it's able to do that extremely fast. All of the things that make Envoy awesome for what it is, for traditional workloads, actually hold it back from being able to process AI data, AI workloads, where you actually have to get deep within the body. The processing and the filter chain of Envoy and the configuration API of Envoy don't allow it to do best with this type of workloads and these brand new protocols and their requirements. We call it layer 8 requirements, if you will. So what we really need is this step function evolution of gateway proxies. And that's exactly why we built Agent Gateway. So Agent Gateway is a brand new proxy that we built from the ground up using Rust. And it solves these 3 critical use cases for AI agents. You might not need all 3 use cases on day one, but when you're evaluating a solution, you want to pick something so that you don't build bespoke solutions down the line when your requirements grow. But these are the 3 main use cases for Agent Gateway. So if we dig into this in a little bit more detail, the first use case is consuming LLMs. So you can run Agent Gateway as an egress gateway, so that when you're consuming LLMs, you get things like model failover, being able to jump from one model to another model, being able to inject guardrails into your prompts, and also do credential management. Essentially, all these allow you to consume and provide multiple LLMs for your developers to use, and do it in a safe, secure way that you can observe, that you can cost control, et cetera. The second use case is if you're hosting your own LLMs. Right? Like Jim said, open source LLMs are challenging the frontier models, right? So if you're hosting your own LLMs, then you can use Agent Gateway to do inference routing based on prompt criticality. It can check for GPU and cache utilization, or even LoRa adapters, or check the queue depth to make sure that the request is going to the best LLM inference endpoint. And then Agent Gateway can also run as an MCP server gateway or an MCP gateway, where it can provide things like tool server aggregation, authorization to your different tools, protocol-aware routing, and deep tracing. What you're trying to accomplish here is you need to be able to group together sets of tools and assign them to each individual agent, so that all of your agents don't have access to all of your tools. You need to be able to do that in a more governing way, and to be able to add authorization, et cetera. So you need to be able to see control who has access to what, as well as being able to monitor and get deep observability and governance when you're interacting with hundreds and thousands of tools. Agent Gateway can run as just a standalone proxy. It comes with its own UI. It comes with declarative configuration. It comes with a playground, et cetera, so that developers can self-service and run it wherever they need to. Or if you're running it in Kubernetes, you can actually hook it up directly to a control plane. So a control plane like Kgateway or Istio can pass XDS configuration dynamically to Agent Gateway and program it live. If you like what we were doing, please check us out at agentgateway.dev, or give us a star, give the community a star on GitHub. But more importantly, join our community on Discord. We're super excited about Agent Gateway joining the Linux Foundation. We believe it's the right home for it to grow and become a standard. Thank you.
Thank you. I think these are important steps in terms of enabling AI, because up until now we've seen sort of fits and starts with people implementing AI tech in the enterprise. Just this morning I heard a story about an enterprise that the management wants to take advantage of AI, but they're piloting these projects and they're just not working. And part of it is because a lot of this technology you have to build all by yourself. You have to figure out how to, connect it with enterprise data, and the more that we see the technology advance in open source, the more ease at which you can deploy this stuff, the more likely these implementations will be successful. The last announcement I have is the formation of the DevRel Foundation. So last year, the DevRel Foundation announced an intent to form. And I'm glad to say that now they have actually formed an organization. Developer relations, I think, is an incredibly important part of software development. At the Linux Foundation, we do a lot of developer relations work. And the primary role of that for us is how can we make it easier for developers to come in, join our communities, get as productive as possible, as quickly as possible, and to feel like a part of a broader technology effort. And here to talk about the new DevRel Foundation is Stacy Kruzek, the Developer Relations Leader and Community Advocate for the DevRel Foundation. Come on out.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thanks so much. I'd like to start off today by asking you a question. Is DevRel at risk, or is it just evolving? Well, I'm going to try and answer that question today. And as a steering committee member and also a community participant of the Developer Relations Foundation, I'd like to share why and how the foundation is helping to address this. My name is Stacy Kruzek. I've been in the DevRel space for over a decade now, in tech industry for many years beyond that. I've built communities and strategies from the ground up at companies like Zebra Technologies and Aerospike, and I'm now helping startups and leaders define DevRel and community strategies. During the pandemic, it was challenging. But DevRel had embraced virtual initiatives to begin with, so we transitioned. But it sparked conversations about elevating our role, providing business impact, and more importantly, proving our value. It was still at risk. And over time, in many of those conversations, myself and many other colleagues that I had worked with all agreed that we realized that our profession really lacks some shared standards. So we decided to change it. By late 2023, a group of peers, myself, united around a shared vision to standardize and formalize developer relations. And we opened this up to the wider community to join us. And by June of 2024, we began our journey to launch this under the Linux Foundation. This open source, community-led initiative would help shape DevRel's future. And in August of 2024, last year, as Jim had said, we announced our intent to form. But the foundation is really just a big step forward, and we have a really long journey ahead of us. So even with this progress as we move forward, we're still hearing and we're still feeling that DevRel is truly misunderstood. As a DevRel professional, I feel like I'm always climbing a mountain, trying to prove my value, my worth to the organization. DevRel professionals feel this every day. And our industry has these peaks and valleys. Leadership says, hire the DevRel team, bring them in, it's a priority. And then when budgets get cut, things change, economy changes, DevRel is deprioritized. So leadership is still asking, how does DevRel drive business impact? Well, some companies are getting it, and some are not. In the 2024 11th Annual State of DevRel survey, 50% of the DevRel professionals that responded said that building awareness around DevRel's impact is certainly a challenge. And then 61% of those that respond struggle to really show business value. You know, DevRel is really the critical connector between developers, communities, companies. We're enabling developer success. That's our job, to help you. And when developers can succeed, when they adopt, businesses thrive. So despite these highs and these lows, you know, DevRel has really endured and evolved. And we've had a 40-year journey to get where we are today. I wanted to go through that a bit. So let's talk about it. So 1980s to 1990s, evangelism emerges, right? DevRel is created. Guy Kawasaki at Apple introduces and pioneers developer evangelism. Microsoft follows suit, creates the first DevRel group. And then OpenBSD creates the first hackathon. And they unveil collaboration, problem solving. These are all keys for developer relations push for communities and growth. So then in the 2010s, communities rise, developer relations moves forward. And Barcamp, inspired by Food Camp, unveils Unconference, which we know today. This sparks that peer-to-peer learning. And then DevRelCon in 2017 emerged. And this really was a formalization of DevRel as a profession globally. And it still continues today. And then, of course, the companies like Twilio and Stripe, you know, they pioneered API-first models, and they were really proving DevRel's value. From 2020 to 2023, well, virtual environment and then data-driven insights all of a sudden became this priority. So pandemic accelerates DevRel's virtual strategies and community outreach and building. And with that, we introduced community intelligent platforms. So Orbit started it, then Common Room, and they became crucial because they were delivering and are still delivering data-driven insights and providing impact. Then 2024, it's a realization we need to do something about this. The DRF, Developer Relations Foundation, is introduced and starting to shape the future of DevRel. And again, the annual 2024 survey reveals that 63% of DevRel professionals all were seeking industry-wide standards and formalization. So even after 40 years of progress, the next step is clear. The DevRel Foundation is here to help define our value and shape the future. So this really brings us to the essential question. How do we define DevRel? There's a lot of various definitions out there, but our community agreed that since launching the DevRel Foundation, we've been able to shape the definition. And developer relations is really the practice of building and nurturing relationships through community engagement, through technical support, through education advocacy. We're enabling developers to become successful. We want to help you. And product adaptation of that organization's developer products, and most importantly, driving value. And certainly AI is now becoming an ally for us. I think that it's helping us scale relationships, it's measuring our impact, it's supporting developers more effectively to help them succeed. It's really unveiling where the importance is needed in order to help them in their journey. And the DevRel Foundation is capturing what we do and why it matters. But it's really our mission that defines what we can achieve together. Our mission, defined by the community, is to elevate developer relations, the professional practice of developer relations, and increase awareness of it as a driver of business value. Pretty simplistic, pretty complex to address, though. Our vision is really to try and be that central resource for professionals and companies alike. So we're providing context, structure, continuity, all around DevRel's role. And certainly being guided by the Linux Foundation, the governance, the values, the support is helping us. And as of today, as Jim announced, I'm very excited as a representative of the community to share the good news. The DevRel formation is now official. The good work of our community to build this still continues, though. So let's take a quick look at what we've accomplished so far in this past year. We have been busy. We have working groups, resource and aggregation, we have community, We're building persona libraries, a comprehensive tools catalog, events directory, and under community, we've built a strategy template, and it's currently being built out today. This is all based on best practices, and a lot of community leaders are coming together to help shape this. We're going to create career resources, career growth, metrics, even more, and we are really well on our way. You can find our charter, our mission, resources, and more on GitHub. We have an active, growing Discord community you can join. And today, I'm very happy to announce, after much work, we've officially launched our website. So that will be your first stop and your place to connect with the community, engage with leaders, and explore where we're headed. So now we have an identity, we have a brand, we're building awareness, and an ever-growing community. This is what DevRel does. And an active foundation is filled with brilliant developer professionals that I love working with every day. And it's coming together to really shape the future. But in order to achieve our mission, in order for us to move forward, there's still a lot of work to be done, and we can't really do it without you. So this is a call to action to all the DevRel professionals out there, all of those who are aspiring to be DevRel professionals, join us. And in the conference, we're going to have an AMA today where you can bring on your questions to the DevRel professional panel, and it'll spark a lot of different conversations. And then on Wednesday, one of our steering committee members, Jason Delancey, will be talking about building resources and building out the resource and aggregation group. Lastly, I just want to say this has been a personal passion of mine for the last 10 years, and I'm so very grateful to be here today to announce it. I'm grateful for the chance to share this milestone, celebrate our official formation, and as a representative of the steering committee, our working managers, our full community, I want to thank the Linux Foundation for their trust, their guidance, their partnership, their support, their endorsement. It really gives us the credibility and the structure to move forward. So join us, share your voice, let's build this together, because we're not just defining DevRel, we're shaping its future. Thanks so much.